Hey YouTube, welcome back to another video. I know it's been a while since I posted a video, so I'm going to kind of explain everything that's going on. So, I have two phones. I have my new phone and this phone I'm recording on now. And both of them were like running really slow. They were I had recorded so many videos and taking so many pictures, like I was constantly deleting shit out of my phones to make room. So what I did was I transferred all the videos and everything from both phones to my laptop, and there's a video editor app that comes on Windows 10, and so I transferred everything from both phones to this thing, and then was trying to edit the video with my laptop, and pretty much my laptop just shit out. It's got 4 gig of RAM, and it's not enough to process everything. Like, it was just using 100% of the RAM. It was running so slow, and every time I would try to, like, upload the videos into the video editor app, it would just freeze up. Like, even if I tried to add like 1 or 2 videos at a time, it would just freeze up. And so pretty much I've lost all that footage. I mean, it's on my laptop. I don't know, it's so slow I can't do anything with it. So I'm pretty much just gonna explain pretty much what happened. So I finished getting the car together, got the radiator and everything in, got the car together. I did post a little first start and idle and everything and the exhaust clip, so you guys have seen a little bit of what happened. But pretty much I got the car together, got it running. I drove it for 285 miles over about a week and a half, trying to break in the clutch, and can never get the clutch bled anymore. But it's still decent. Like, it was totally still drivable. So I don't think it has anything to do with the clutch. But I guess whenever I did the first start, it was full of 91. And the tune is for E85. So it was spitting out double the fuel. And I didn't really think about it. I just, I did the first start. And then I drained as much fuel out as I could out of the tank and topped it off with the E85. And then I would drive it around, use about a quarter tank, and then I would top it back off. I was just trying to mix that 91 in with the E85. But I guess while it was running rich, it dumped a lot of fuel into the oil, and it spun a bearing. And maybe two. I don't know. There's a lot of metal in the oil. I had drained the oil out. I posted that short. So if you haven't seen those, go look it up. You can watch it. But so essentially, I drove the car for a week and a half, a little over half on the break-in period, and it spun bearings. So it's got a knock. Also, I never got the engine mount welded on that side. It's still in the trunk. And so I had an issue where when I was driving it, the engine kept wanting to move forward and back, and it kept rubbing holes in the lower radiator hose. So I ended up going through like 3 hoses. And what I did was I used the upper radiator hose, and I just had to like cut it at a certain angle and cut it at a certain angle down here, and that makes it fit over there. So I ended up figuring out, so I have like 3 extra hoses now in case that is still an issue. But from it moving around, it broke the front engine mount that I made. Like I said, I'm not a welder, so I wasn't expecting it to hold up forever. But yeah, it broke that mount, so that's gonna have to get re-welded. But yeah, so I went to the salvage yard. I got another engine. It's got 131,000 miles. This is out of Noah's blue Buick that the intake blew up. His fuel pressure regulator went bad, blew up the intake, and he scrapped the car. It's been out there for like 4 months, and no one had touched it yet. And so we went out there and spent like 3 or 4 hours one day, pulled the engine out, tore it all apart. I got it for a little over $200 for the block. And then there was some scoring in the cylinder walls. And so I took all the stock pistons out. so I could hone the cylinders. And on cylinders, what is it, 3 and 4, both the center cylinders had a lot of like scoring in the cylinders, and both of their piston rings were like seized in the piston. And so I ended up having to, I honed all 6 cylinders, and then I just put in the brand new set of Silverlight standard bore pistons and new rings. So all 6 cylinders got honed out, all 6 got new pistons. I reused the rods and the bearings that were already in the engine, and I made sure I kept everything aligned. I got all the rod caps retorqued to ARP's torque spec, which was 45 foot-pounds. So all the rod bolts are retorqued, lubed all the bearings, got the crank all cleaned up, everything. So I didn't break any of the main caps. I just cleaned off the the rod journals on the crank, and put that assembly lube on there and got it all back together. So hopefully we have no issues. I got a steel oil pan, cleaned it up, painted it red. I'm having to use this engine mount bracket instead of the one that bolts onto the oil pan onto the aluminum pan, which is what I have now. And so I've got to actually get this bolted onto the engine, like raise the engine up, unbolt that one off the oil pan, get that bolted on, and get the engine mount bolted on so I can line up where the engine mount is going to go and how tall the engine's going to sit with it on and everything. And then once I have that done, I'm going to be able to mark on the subframe where the mount needs to be welded on, and then I can reline up for my front mount up here and make sure that's still going to be straight. And I can have Garrett weld that up. So Garrett actually came over yesterday, but I wasn't ready. You know, I haven't got the engine out yet, so I still got a ways to go. But I started pulling everything apart. So far I've just got this box of stuff off. Not very much, but yeah, I just wanted to give you guys an update so you guys know what's been going on. But yeah, I've got a new engine. It's got a new oil pan gasket on it and new pistons and rings. So hopefully we have no issues with this engine. It was a good running engine in Noah's Buick before the intake blew up, so hopefully we have no issues. So I talked to Gage, and he said I have to pull the engine and trans together, but I have to remove the oil filter housing to get clearance. So both the front wheels got to come off. I've got to undo the knuckle to strut bolts so I can rock it forward, pull the axles out, which means I'm going to have to drain all the trans fluid out of the trans. But yeah, then once I get the axles pulled out, then the engine and trans combo will pretty much be ready to lift up, other than the rear mount and the exhaust. And yeah, this one's broke off, and there's not a mount on the passenger side, so a dog bone and the rear mount is pretty much what's holding this thing in right now. Oh, I guess there is the mount over here on this side down there. So it's got 3 mounts right now. But yeah, that's what's been going on. So I'm slowly just trying to make stuff happen. And I had ordered a gasket kit for my mom's car for her NA 3800, and this is a brand new supercharger gasket. It's only got 285 miles on it, so it's the metal one. I'm going to reuse the supercharger gasket. But other than that, I got new head gaskets, new lower intake manifold gaskets, the metal Felpro ones. So I mean, I pretty much have the gaskets I need. I got the brand new oil pan gasket I had given Noah. Whenever we redid his engine, he said his wasn't leaking, so we didn't use it. So I needed it, so he gave it back to me. So I got the brand new oil pan gasket on there. I'll have brand new head gaskets. I got thread tape. I have RTV. I've got copper spray. I have assembly lube. So I mean, I have everything I need to get this engine and trans pulled out. I got to pull everything off of it. I got it pretty much down to a bare block like that block. Cam's gonna come out, it's gonna get cleaned up, go right into that block, get lubed, and then that one will start going back together. I'm gonna have to clean up the heads and the lower intake mating surfaces, and that's pretty much it I should have to do on cleanup. That block's already cleaned up, so I've got oil in the cylinders, some oil in the pan, dump some oil on the crank and the rods just to make sure it's lubricated and it's all wrapped up in plastic and taped up, and then tarp over it and ratchet strapped down. So trying to make sure no water gets in there. But yeah, so now to keep going on this, I've got to pull the power steering pump, I've got to pull that oil filter housing, heater hoses. I'm probably just gonna pull the fuel rails off the engine. I'm probably gonna pull the supercharger off the engine before I pull the engine out, but I'm gonna leave the heads on because that's where my hooks are to grab on. So that's how I've got to lift the engine out. But I want to get the fuel rails out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and pull most of the harness over that way, get the supercharger off, and power steering pump. I'm just going to leave it connected to the lines in the car. And yeah, then hopefully we should be good. So just got to keep disconnecting this harness, and yeah, just pull a few things off. I got to cut some zip ties. And yeah, we'll get this top end torn apart and start and get this thing ready to be pulled out of here. So hopefully I can have this thing pulled out of here by tomorrow, and then I can start the tear down and getting everything cleaned up so it can go back together on this engine. And I'm hoping to have this pulled out and this engine put together and put back in within like 2 or 3 days. So that's the goal. So yeah, I'm gonna get some tools out and get back to work on this thing, and I'll give you guys another update here shortly. Alright you guys, so I damn near got everything off of the old engine. I still got to do the crank pulley, the timing cover, and the cam and all that. I went ahead and pushed the new engine up here. I'm gonna get the ratchet straps off, get the tarp off. I'm gonna leave it in the plastic until I have everything off of the old engine. I just wanted to start getting everything ready, so as soon as I pull the cam out, I can put the lube on it, put it into this engine, get the retainer plate on, get the Loctite on there, and start getting this thing put back together today. So y'all stay tuned, and I will give you guys another update. Alright you guys, timing cover is off. There's that nice JP Performance double roller. So I'm going to be very careful and get that taken off. You see the timing cover still looks pretty clean inside. I mean, I'll definitely have to take these out and take this oil pump back apart and just make sure that everything's good. And all of that commotion, look, it popped out. So I don't know what happened, but I'm going to take some air and spray in there. That's the hole that pushes it out. And I'll just have to clean this out really, really fucking good. But it looks like I'm going to be able to reuse this timing cover. I just got to clean it out really, really good. So, but I'm going to go ahead and get this timing chain off of here and get the cam pulled out, and I'll give you guys another update. Alright you guys, got the timing chain off. I had to use the 3-jaw puller to get the crank gear off, but got it off. It's sitting over here. I went ahead and zip tied everything. Got my cam key right there and my cam bolt. So now I've just got to get the cam retainer plate bolts undone, get this cam retainer plate off. I can pull the cam out, and yeah, we should pretty much be done with this engine. I don't think I need anything. Oh, and the starter and the knock sensors. Other than that, I don't think I need anything else off of this engine. So I'm happy with that. So I'm going to go ahead and get this cam retainer plate and get the cam out, and I'll give you guys another update. Alright you guys, so I got the cam retainer plate off. So now I can get the cam out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unwrap the new engine and get all the plastic off, and I'm going to get out the motor assembly grease lube, and I'm going to pull the cam out of here, grease it and lube it all up, and then put it straight into the new engine. And then I have the cam retainer plate sitting over there. I'm going to spray it down with some brake clean. And then I've got to get the Loctite, the red Loctite. And then I can swap it out, or get the bolts Loctited, get them torqued down. And I've got the whole torque spec sheet on my phone from Google. So I'm going to go through and completely torque everything down and start getting the engine put back together. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this cam, get that unwrapped, and then get the cam out, and I'll give you guys another update. Alright, you guys, so this engine is torn down. Only thing I have left to grab is the starter and the knock sensors. I'm not reusing anything else. I do still want to pull the oil pan just to look at everything. Oh, and I need to get my heat shield because I am going to reuse those. But yeah, that engine is pretty much torn down as far as I'm going to take it. So now I've got the cam pulled out over here. I got the motor assembly grease. And so I'm about to install it, but I'm going to end it here. So if you liked the video, leave me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos. And please share the videos with your friends and family, because I think this is going to be a pretty good, reliable engine. And so yeah, thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Yeah, also guys, I forgot to mention that David gave me a 500 gig SD card for my phone, so I should have no more issues with storage space on my phone and running out of storage space. So yeah, I wanted to throw that in there because I forgot to mention that. So shout out to David. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and start getting this supercharger and everything removed, and I'll give you guys another update. Alright you guys, so I made a little bit of progress. So I've got the harness, I got a lot of it undone, and I've got the entire fueling system off of the engine. I did have to remove the map sensor bracket because I have the fuel pressure regulator bolted down to it. So it's easier just to remove that bolt that bolts on the supercharger and just remove this whole piece. I left all the lines connected. Only thing I had to disconnect was where my quick connects plug in on my fuel lines. Right down there. So whole fueling system is off. So I think next I can go ahead and remove the supercharger. I've already got my brake booster hoses disconnected. And then I just have to disconnect the throttle cables, which I'll probably just unbolt this throttle bracket that's right here and just remove the bracket and then pull the cables out. But I want to leave these connected to this bracket. But yeah, I mean, it's just about ready for the supercharger to come off. So I've already got that purge valve line disconnected. So I mean, it's really just supercharger bolts, and the supercharger should be off. And yeah, we'll be one step closer to getting this thing pulled out of here. So I'm gonna go ahead and use this 10, zip out all these 10 supercharger bolts and get this throttle bracket disconnected, and then should be good to go. Alright you guys, so I took the supercharger bolts and I put them into a bag. Haven't labeled them, but I know what those are. And then did the same with the fuel rail nuts, and then that's the bolt that holds on the map sensor bracket to the supercharger. And then that's the clip that goes in. It's a big purple part on the harness. Yeah, it goes into this other end of this plug. It's over there somewhere. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure I don't lose anything. So I'm bagging up all the nuts and bolts. And yeah, but I went ahead and got the supercharger off. Got the gasket there. There's the blower. Blower looks good. The gasket looks pretty good, except for around the PCV port. It looks kind of blown out. But other than that, it looks okay. Yeah, these coolant O-rings are like plugged up with, I don't know if that's RTV or what. It doesn't look very good. But yeah, I know why it's leaking around over here. And that's because I don't have the tube that goes up anymore because it was removed for the intercooler. And now the intercooler's gone, so it doesn't have that tube there anymore that actually goes up into the supercharger. But I mean, other than that, everything's looking pretty good, so I'm gonna keep working on this. I'm gonna pull this radiator hose off, and then I'll be able to unbolt and remove the lower intake manifold. We'll be making some really good progress, so I'm gonna go ahead and get that unbolted and give you guys another update. You guys, so I got the main custom part of Gage's harness is all removed. It's all over here. And so yeah, that was the next step. My next step is I've got to unbolt the ICM plug so I can pull this harness out from under the dog bone mount bracket so I can slide this other one out. This is my oil pressure sensor that plugs in on the oil filter housing, and I have it tucked in there before the ICM plug, so it's just kind of hanging up. But I have it wired directly into the harness down here by the starter, because on the 3.4 the oil pressure sensor is on the block right down here, and on the 3.8 it's on the back side. So I have this extended all the way around to the back. But yeah, so it's coming apart. I'm making good progress. So next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and remove this. Actually, I'll probably have to remove the alternator so I can get to that lower intake bolt, because can't really get straight on it. So I'll probably unbolt the alternator and set it aside. Then I can pull the lower intake manifold. And then I want to look at these coolant passages in here just to make sure there ain't no gunk and shit in there, because I don't want to have any issues whenever it goes back together on this new engine. So I want to probably spray it out, clean it out real good, make sure we don't have any issues. And yeah, and then I'm going to leave the heads on whenever I pull this thing out of here, so that way I have these hooks to actually hook the chain onto to pull them out. And I don't think there's one on the back. I left it off, so I'm going to have to bolt the one on. I do have it, it's just not bolted on right now because I changed to the headers and I just never, or to the power logs, and I never bolted it back on. But yeah, making really good progress. So I'm going to keep working on this, go ahead and pull this alternator so I can get the lower intake manifold off and go from there. So y'all stay tuned. I'll give you guys another update. Alright y'all, so I got the alternator and the alternator bracket removed. Got those set over here to the side. Went ahead and popped the lower intake out. It's sitting over here. I've got all the bolts in a bag. I still need to label everything. But this is about as far of tear down that I'm going to do on the engine before I pull it out. So I'm going to remove the dog bone. I might remove this bracket, but I don't know if I'm going to or not. The crossover might be in the way of removing the bolt. But yeah, I might pull this bracket off. I might leave it, but I have to leave the hook. I need to add the one on the rear. But yeah, here's the lifter valley. Really doesn't look that bad. I did spill a little bit of coolant in there whenever I pulled the lower intake. So, did get a little coolant in there, but it doesn't matter. I'm not reusing this block, so. But yeah, I'm going to keep on working on this. I need to, like I said, get this dog bone off. I need to pull this clutch line. I was really actually debating on, instead of unplugging it here so it stays bled to the point of what it is now, I'm debating on, once I pull the fuse box and the fuse box tray out, I was debating on just unbolting the master from the firewall, keeping the reservoir and just keeping everything together on, and just like set it down on the trans, so that way whenever I pull everything out, it stays together, it stays as bled as it is, and then once it goes back together, I just bolt it back on. And so that's kind of what I'm debating on with the clutch situation. But I mean, overall it's coming together really well. I need to get the shifter cables undone, get them unclipped out of this bracket, and then I can pull those out, unrun those. I need to unbolt the rear mount, this front mount. I still want to jack up the engine with the oil pan. I need to get the passenger wheel off over here and pull that bracket off the oil pan, and then get that big U bracket bolted on so I can test fit that the new engine mount that's going to go on there. But yeah, I mean, overall making really good progress. So I'm going to keep working on this. I guess I'm going to go ahead and get the wheels off so I can test fit that mount before I move any further. And because I need to do that before I pull this thing out, and the more weight I have on it, really the better, because I'm going to get a more accurate set. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get this passenger front wheel off and get all this fender liner splash guards out of the way so I have access, and then I'll give you guys another update. Alright, you guys, well, I was trying to remove this wheel. I was able to get 4 of the lug nuts off with the impact. This last one, it's on there. I must have torqued it down really good with the 4-way, and since the car's in the air or on jack stands, the wheels won't stay still for me to actually break it free. And I tried to remove this wheel, and I can't get any of these 5 lug nuts to budge. So I'm going to have to jack it back up, take it off of jack stands, lower it down to break all the lug nuts free, and then raise it back up, put it back on jack stands to have it in the air. So that's going to be the next step. Is I've got to get the jack handles right there, and I need to lift the car up, pull the jack stands out, set it down, get this other lug nut broke free, and those 5, and then I'll get it back in the air, put it back on jack stands, and then I'll give you guys another update. Alright guys, well, change of plans. So I got this one broke free, car's still in the air. What I did was I was going through the tool bag, and I found this nice little handy short Phillips screwdriver. Goes right in the middle of the rotor, and then whenever you turn it, it catches. And I was able to get that side broke free, so I'm going to try to break these 5 free, and hopefully I don't snap this little mini screwdriver, because I do use that. But I'm going to try to get these 5 free, and then I'll give you guys another update. Alright, you guys, so I've got both the wheels off. I've got one over there, and this side's off, sitting here. So now I can actually get down in here, actually see what's going on. So I did get the shifter cables removed off of the transmission shift selector. So now I'm good to pull these out. I'm going to have to cut a zip tie, because I did zip tie the shifter cables to the power steering lines. And then I've got to remove this plastic shield over here so I can get back behind there. But you can see the engine mount bracket there with the hockey puck. So that's got to come off. And I've got to get that big U bolt, or that big U bracket. It's going to bolt on here and up here onto this bolt and these 2 holes here, and then it's got a couple on the front side, and that's going to put the engine mount bracket where I need it. And then I can get the engine mount itself out of the trunk, and I can kind of place it in here where it needs to go. And I'll use like a screwdriver, or I think I have a center punch, and that might work pretty well for scoring up the subframe, so I know exactly where that mount's going to sit. And then there's also a couple holes drilled out in it, because you're supposed to drill through the subframe, through like this and through like this, and put a couple nuts and bolts through it and tighten that down. And then you have the option to weld it on also. And so that's what I'm going to do. So whenever I get it marked, I'll also mark the bolt holes, and that way I know exactly where the mount needs to line up once the engine and trans is pulled out of the car. So next thing I got to do is I've got to pull this plastic splash guard off, and yeah, then we can get access to behind this to that mount bracket. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this off real quick, and I'll give you guys another update. All right, you guys, so just a few little plastic clips. I got these from Walmart. They were like 10 bucks, and these actually work really good for grabbing these ends on these plastic little push tab retainers. So yeah, I just had one here, one at the bottom, and then there's another on the front side of this canister, but I can't get to it with the front bumper on. But yeah, you can see it right up there. But yeah, so I just kind of got this tucked down out of the way, which is fine. But yeah, making really good progress. So now I can get the jack, I can get it under the oil pan, I can raise the engine up a little bit, remove the bolts out of the oil pan that hold this bracket on, and hopefully I have enough room to bolt that bracket on, that engine mount bracket, to make sure that everything's going to be lining up correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick, and I'll give you guys another update once I have this bracket removed. Alright, you guys, so I've got my bracket unbolted, engine is supported by the jack. And look, so I got the bracket off, and it's been sitting on there. The hockey puck is like stuck to the bracket. I haven't put any real pressure on it, but I just thought that was funny. But yeah, I just wanted to show you guys I've got that off. Don't mind all the coolant. Whenever I pulled the lower intake, it dumped everywhere. So there's a lot of coolant over here. You can see it in the control arm. So yeah, I'm going to have to get all that cleaned up. But I mean, other than that, it looks like we might still have a little bit of a power steering leak, unless that is, oh no, that's coolant, never mind. So we're good on the power steering, I hope. It looks like it was pretty dry back here. But making really good progress. I'm really happy with how everything is going right now. So yeah, next thing's next. I've got to grab that bracket, try to get it finagled in here where it needs to go, and get it bolted on to the engine, and then I'll give you guys another update. Alright y'all, so here's the bracket. I got the bolts. I tried to clean them up with a shirt, just wiped them down, try to get them as clean as I could, just so they're not all greasy and grimy. But so now I've got to get this mount bracket kind of up there in place where it needs to go, start feeding these bolts, make sure it's going to fit around this AC compressor, which it should, because this is all a Series 2 AC compressor bracket, and this is Series 2, and it's made to fit with the steel pan, so hopefully it doesn't interfere with the aluminum pan here. I really hope not, because I have no way to drop the pan out of here. You know, before, because, so like right now the mount is off. Technically I could unbolt the pan, but then once I drop it down, the pan's going to want to hit the subframe, and I can't lower the pan down if the jack is holding up the engine with the pan. So that's kind of the dilemma that I've been having ever since I drained the oil from whenever the engine started knocking, and I drained the oil. I wanted to drop the pan to inspect inside the pan and inspect like the crank and the rod bearings and everything to see what happened, but I don't have, they make this bar, it sits right here on this fender, and then over on that side, and there's a bar that comes across, and you chain the engine to it, and you can adjust it to where it gives it more or less tension. And so essentially you would jack the engine up like I have it now, get the chain tight, and then lower it, and then that bar would actually hold the engine up here in the engine bay, and if I had one of those, then essentially, yes, I could drop the oil pan. But I don't have one of those, and I don't have the money to go purchase one. So I'm just kind of SOL right now on it. So I'm going to try to fit this bracket. Hopefully that oil pan doesn't get in the way, because I have no other way to test fit it. And I'd hate to get this all out, swap everything, and then have to retest, have to get it in here, test it for the engine mount, then pull it back out again to have Garrett weld it. I'd rather get it all mocked up and marked, pull this out, and then while I'm transferring heads and cam and all the parts off of this block onto the new block, while I'm doing that, Garrett can come over. He can grind whatever he needs to grind, get the paint off, weld the mount on, and then I can always just like spray paint over the welds with black paint, just so it doesn't rust. But yeah, that's pretty much how I was planning on this going. So whether it's gonna go to plan or not, I do not know, but we will see. We will see how everything goes. So I'm gonna keep working on this. I'm gonna try to get this mount in here, or this mount bracket in here, and bolt it up. Hopefully we have clearance, and I'll give you guys another update here in a few and let you know. Alright, y'all, well, the bracket will not go on with the oil filter. So I went and got this little oil filter socket. Ooh, that seems like it might be a little bit too big. Nope, there we go. Okay. So I guess I'm going to use the impact to loosen that. And yeah, there should still be a little bit of oil in there. The pan has been drained, but I haven't removed the filter yet. So there should still be some oil in the filter. And so I'm going to get this broke free, get this filter off of here. And then I'll give you guys another update, and we can finally test fit this bracket and see if it's going to fit or not. Alright, y'all. Oil filter is off. As you can tell, that oil does not look that great. So I'm going to let this drip for a few. Just so we don't have oil dripping all over the freshly painted bracket as I'm trying to install it. So I'm going to let that drip for a minute, and I'll come back to you guys whenever I'm ready to start test fitting this bracket and make sure it's going to fit and make sure everything's going to line up properly. Alright, you guys, so oil's finally stopped dripping, so I got the bucket out of the way. I used the rag just to kind of wipe it down. And for the most part, I've got the mount bracket up in here. And let's see, so I can kind of start getting it up in here, but it looks like one of the bolts over there has to go on that heat shield bracket, and then on the front side, then on the front side it looks like one of the AC compressor bolts has to come out so that this mount can go behind the AC compressor bracket. So it does look like the mount will fit with the aluminum oil pan, so that's at least good. But it's still not going to line up, so I'm going to have to unbolt the AC compressor and then unbolt the bracket, which is going to be a little bit of a pain in the ass with it in the car still, but it's got to be done. So I'm going to go ahead and start getting these nuts off of here, and then I'll give you guys another update. Alright, you guys, so I had to lower the engine down quite a ways to get room, but I was able to get all three of the nuts for the AC compressor off, and the compressor is loose. And at first, because I have so much torn off of the top end, I was able to just take the tensioner off, and I got access to the top nut. And then these two lower ones, this one here and this one down here, I was able to just use my impact with an extension with a 13, and those two come right off. But I couldn't get to the top one, so I came up here, got the top one off by removing the tensioner, and then was able to get to the top one. So I have all three nuts removed, but then I couldn't get the AC compressor off of the 3 studs on the bracket because the compressor was hitting the underside of the frame rail. So I then lowered the engine down some. Now I have it off, but now the line is in the way. So the AC line is now in the way. So I'm going to try to lower this just a little bit more, but I don't know how it's going to go. So I'm going to lower this down a little bit more, try to give me a little bit more clearance to get this compressor out of here, and I'll give you guys another update. All right, y'all, so I was able to lower the engine down a little bit more and managed to get it out and free from the bracket. But now I come underneath and it's not really wanting to come out of here, and it's got 3 of these sticking off. One's here, one's coming straight out, and the other one's going up right now. So to make clearance, I could drop this plastic radiator support down, but then my whole radiator and AC condenser is going to want to drop. So I don't want to do that. And so yeah, I'm thinking about maybe trying to scoot this over some, and since the subframe dips in right here, maybe I'll be able to get it out a little easier. Not for sure, but I've got to try. So I just want to give you guys an update. I've almost got the AC compressor out, and once it's out, I should have plenty of room to get to the bracket that holds the AC compressor. Then I should be able to get the engine mount bracket bolted on so we can test fit it. So I'm going to try to get this compressor out of here, and I'll give you all another update. Alright, y'all, well, I've been fighting this thing for like 10 minutes, and it's because of that little ear right there. It's not going to come out without dropping that plastic piece, and I don't feel like messing with that right now. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to raise the engine back up, and then maybe I can snake it out underneath this bracket, because, you know, it was sitting up pretty tall. So I'm going to go raise the jack back up and then see if I can snake the compressor out through the side over here. Alright, you guys, compressor is out. So I raised the engine up, and it still wasn't enough room to snake it out over there through that side, because the bracket's still right there. But it did give me a little bit more clearance to scoot it over, and I was able to get it out right through here where this little hump is, or notch in the subframe. So I was able to get it out. Compressor is out. So now, well, I guess you can't see from the top. Alright. Now the next thing is those 3 18 mil bolts right there. And then this bracket should be off and out of the way. So I'm going to grab the 18, get those 3 bolts out, get this bracket out of the way, and then we can finally test fit that engine mount bracket. Alright, you guys, so finally that pesky mounting bracket is out of the way. And then I also forgot there was another stud with a 13 nut right there. So I had to remove that. Then the bracket was able to come off. And then I also remembered that the bracket goes into that bolt hole that's over that heat shield for the rear knock sensor, which isn't even used, but I still, you know, kept the bracket on there, the heat shield. But so I went ahead and removed that nut. It was a 15 mil, or that bolt, I mean. It's a little short one. So got that removed. So I don't think I'm going to use this one. It's a little bit shorter than these. As you can tell, same threads, it's just a little bit shorter. So with this one, it's having to go through the bracket and through that heat shield. So that's why you have a little bit longer bolt. But now I should have all the clearance I need to get this bracket up in here and get it bolted down onto the engine. So I'm about to snake this back in here, start getting some bolts in as long as all the holes line up, and I'll give you guys another update here in just a minute. Alright, y'all, well, I was able to get one bolt in the front, and then I was trying to line up the back, and I'm super close. So on this bracket, the heat shield, you have to pull it out. It wants to sit in front of the bracket. So that's fine. But if you look right in here, the bracket is hitting the oil pan right there. And it's not allowing the bracket to go up all the way into place. So pretty much looks like it's not going to line up. It's not going to work. And then right there, it's already super close. So once I try to take this bracket and straighten it out, it's going to hit on that side. It's already hitting on this side. So it's just not going to work with this big bracket on this oil pan. So that really fucking blows. I don't have anything else I can do. I can't drop the oil pan because I have nothing to hold the engine up. So now I'm just kind of stuck at the moment. So I guess the only thing I can do is just worry about getting the exhaust and the transmission mounts and getting everything else disconnected, and then hopefully I can get this pulled back out of here. I mean, I don't know what else to do. I was really hoping I was going to be able to just line that up and get it bolted on, but evidently that's not going to work properly. It's not going to happen that way. So I will definitely give you guys another update, but I guess for now I'm just going to stop working on the mount thing and just worry about trying to get everything else disconnected. I got to get the exhaust. This can be 2 wrenches on each side. And then the rear mount, the driver's side trans mount, the front mount's broke. The whole weld's broke. Oh, here we go. Yeah. Weld's broke, so front mount is already disconnected. But yeah, so I'm going to keep working on everything else, and I'll give you guys another update. Alright, you guys, so I moved on. I was able to, I put the hockey puck underneath the oil pan where the front bracket normally bolts on, and then I had to remove the dog bone because with it sitting at such an angle, it was not wanting to sit right. I didn't want to break the bracket or my dog bone. So I was like, alright, cool, got that taken care of, set it down, and then I said, alright, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to pull the oil filter housing. So I got my 13, got the bolts out, everything seemed fine. But then I remembered about the oil volume kit, and the cap didn't spring out. It's like stuck in there. So that could potentially be the reason why it spun a bearing. If this isn't free, then it's not going to get no oil. So that could potentially be why the engine went bad really quickly. So I don't know what the deal is with that. I'm not going to mess with trying to get that cap out of there right this second. But I wanted to give y'all an update and show you guys that could very potentially be the reason why the engine spun however many bearings. Even looking in the oil filter housing, you can just see all that metal. There was oil in there before I dumped it, but I mean, it looked exactly like the oil, just shiny. Like you could see the glitter just in that. So there's a lot of metal in this engine. So I expect maybe 2 or 3 bearings, maybe more than that. I'm not for sure. I'm really hoping the cam is okay. I'm hoping everything else on the top end is okay. I mean, I know the heads and all that are good, but I mean like the top end of the block, the cam, the lifters. I guess that's pretty much it internally. But still, even the oil pump, like that's a new oil pump in this timing cover, and that was like $100 for the oil pump kit plus the $40 or $50 for the machined oil pump cover for the double roller. So I mean, that's an expensive bit right there, and I don't have any more timing covers. I've already used them or sold them all. This is the only extra one I have. So fingers crossed everything in here looks good. I'm probably going to have to unbolt the machined oil pump cover, and I'm probably going to have to clean out the whole timing cover really, really well before it goes up back onto the new engine. So yeah, that oil pump's going to have to come out. I'm going to have to go get a couple cans of brake clean. So yeah, I can't really do anything until, I think Walmart opens at 7 o'clock. It's only like 3 something or 4 in the morning. But yeah, that's a bummer there. But it's alright. That's part of life sometimes. The engine's already bad. So at least I know what the deal is. I caught it. So can't be too upset with it. That's, like I said, shit happens. It's part of life. It's part of cars. So I guess next thing I'm going to work on is I'm going to go ahead and try to get the lower bolt out of the power steering pump. And then once I get the lower one out, I will have to jack the engine back up to get the upper one, because I can't get my socket through the hole. Yeah, I can't get my socket through the hole and get the ratchet on it with it lowered down. So I have to raise it back up to get the top one and lower it down to get to the bottom one. So I'm going to do that next. Get the power steering pump off and removed. And then we can head on to the next step. Alright, you guys. So I could set the engine back down. I went ahead and put the old engine mount bracket back on. Put the hockey puck back under there. Before I did all that, I did lower the engine all the way down, got the bottom bolt out of the power steering pump, and then raised it back up so I could get the top bolt. And then I put that bracket on and lowered it back down. So now the power steering pump is off, and the engine is sitting pretty level. So, still making good progress. It's about, let's see, what time is it? It's 5:30 a.m. right now. So I'm going to keep working on this. Like I said, Walmart doesn't open until 7. So I guess next thing I want to do is, I guess I'm going to start working on the downpipe, getting that unbolted from the engine. And I need to work on unplugging all these, the fans, and getting all these clips that hold the wire harness on. Got to get all that disconnected. I need to undo the ground, get these battery cables out of the way. I need to pull the fuse box out, get the fuse box tray out. And yeah, just kind of go from there. Just kind of start getting all this stuff pulled out of here and removed, and getting everything ready to pull this thing back out of here. So I'm going to keep working on this, and I'll give you guys another update. Alright, you guys, so I got everything all picked up. I got the shelf from the storage out of the Trailblazer, and kind of just got everything stacked over here on the shelf. And went in and took a shower, changed. So now I'm feeling nice and fresh. About to run up here to the store, get me a couple of NOS and another pack of cigarettes. And then I'll be back, and I'll pick up where I left off. So didn't make too much more progress on it. I mean, I got a little bit done, but I couldn't really decide what I wanted to tear apart next after the exhaust. So I decided I wanted to go take a shower, so I went and took a shower. But yeah, I'm gonna run up here to the smoke shop and up here to Quick Trip, to the gas station, and then I'll be back and I'll give you guys another update. Alright, you guys, so it is the next night. It's a little after midnight. I ended up sleeping most of the day, and I just got up around 9:30, and I just kind of been chilling. So now I'm back out here. You can see this where I left off. So Next thing I need to do really is I need to get the cherry picker out of the shed and get the chain, and I need to find the other hook so I can get it bolted on to the rear head back here, and then that way I'll be able to actually put tension with the cherry picker and keep pressure on it. And with that, I could have actually maybe dropped the pan. That way the cherry picker legs would kind of be in the way, but that's the only other option I would have to drop the pan to test fit the big U-mount over here, just so I can line up that engine mount. But I don't know, really that's my only other option that I have. But I want to start getting this lifted out of here, or at least under tension. I still have to pull both of the knuckle to strut bolts and rock the knuckle out so I can pop the axles out. I'll do that on both sides, and then once I get the axles popped out of the trans, it's gonna dump all the fluid, so I'm gonna have to get a couple of drain pans to catch the fluid. And yeah, I never was able to go to Walmart. Guy was supposed to come buy those wheels after he got off work at 6 a.m. and he never came and got them. So yeah, I didn't have the money to go buy the brake clean or anything that I needed to get from Walmart, so I just didn't go. But yeah, so that's where I'm at right now. So I guess first thing I'm going to do is I guess I can go ahead and get the strut bolts off and get the axles pulled out. I have a empty drain pan back there, so I'll go grab the other drain pan. But I'm going to get these axles popped out and then get the cherry picker out and get that other U-bolt bolted on the back so I can actually get this thing under tension, and then I'll give you guys another update. Alright y'all, so I went to the shed. I found 2 of the other hooks, so I went ahead and got it bolted on. So that one's bolted on. This one I made sure it was tight, so it's nice and tight. So now I can get the chain. I'm probably going to just turn this over here to the side like that, so the chain doesn't hit my billet oil cap. And I still have to get the cherry picker out of the shed. I'm going to have to pull a bunch of crap out and get it out of the way. But yeah, once I get the cherry picker out, I can get the chain hooked on here, hook up the cherry picker, and I should be able to hold the engine level. And I was kind of debating on, I want to see if this engine mount bracket that's on here right now, I want to see if that's going to line up the same as the other bracket. So I might try to get the new engine mount out of the trunk and maybe kind of bolt it to this bracket and then bolt it on here and kind of see if it'll fit that away, and maybe draw some lines on it and kind of line it up where it needs to be. So I don't know, I might still mess with this engine mount a little bit, because I do want to get that done before I pull the engine out, and I'm not going to be able to use this bracket. But I know between the Series 2 and the Series 3, with that bracket bolted onto the engine block and being bent how it is, and this one bolted onto the oil pan, I know, like, I've taken a Series 2 engine with that style bracket and bolted it right into a Series 3 car before. So really the mount bracket should be at the same spot. So I think by using this bracket, I should still be able to line everything up, get it set where it needs to be set, and then I feel pretty confident that whenever I get this engine going back in with the steel pan and that bracket, it should still line up. So I'm thinking that's what I want to do, because I need to get that straightened out and figured out before I get this thing pulled out of here, or else I'm going to have to put it in and then pull it back out and be waiting for Garrett to weld. So I'd rather not do that. I'd rather him weld it while I'm putting this one together and tearing this one apart. So I figure that'll give him like a whole day to come over and get this welded in and make it look good, and then I can paint it up black. I got some black spray paint, So I'll paint over whatever he welds. It should be good to go. So that's the plan right now. So I guess I'm going to get the cherry picker out and give you guys another update. Alright, you guys, so I decided to use the jack instead of getting the cherry picker out yet. So I've got the jack supporting the oil pan. I raised the engine. I was trying to fit the mount. This is the mount that I got from Gauge. It's actually a really cool design. And so I was trying to I had this bracket still bolted to the oil pan. And I got this to slide up in there, but then I couldn't get the bolts to go through. I couldn't get to them because the subframe is in the way right there. And then also, there's a brake line that runs right here on the inside of the subframe, and that has to go between the mount here. And with the bolts hanging down, then the bolts were in the way of the brake line. So, but I mean, it looks like everything's going to sit, and it's going to have plenty of clearance right there for the brake line. So that's good. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and try to snake this back up in there now. I might have to raise the engine up a little bit more to give me enough clearance to get this in there. But once I can get it set in there, then I can lower the engine back down, line up my bolt holes, and get the bracket bolted back down to the oil pan, at least the front one. That way I can just line everything up, but then that'll at least let me know exactly where the engine's going to be sitting. And it's actually pretty cool because I was using this hockey puck, and it's about the same size gap there. So where I had the hockey puck sitting in there, it should be about the same mounting points and everything. So the engine should sit about the same with this in there. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get this fitted up in there around this brake line, and I'll give you guys another update. Alright, you guys, so I've almost got the mount in here. I've got this bolt over here in. I've got this one in over here, going through the pan. But the mount sits right in the way, right here. So I'm having to use a wrench, and slowly but surely, it's going in. And then once I get this tightened down enough, then that should line up the one there on the front of the bracket going into the oil pan. It's not letting me, it's just not wanting to line up all the way. So I'm going to have to do it with the wrench and just get this tightened down so it will move the bracket up some. Then I can put my front bolt in, and then I can completely let the jack down, and that should let everything sit right in place where it needs to go. You can see the angle, like everything looks like it's sitting good. And then there's also this outer plate that goes on it as well. And so this is going to go something like this. Yeah, something like that. And then you're supposed to drill a hole through it here. And then it drills a hole over here on this side. So you get your hole going through here. And that's going to be one bolt hole. And then the other bolt hole's on the top here. And it's going to go through to that one. So, maybe I got it upside down. Yeah. Go something like that. There we go. Yeah, so that's pretty much the bracket. I know I'm going to have to clean all that weld off where I welded that plate on before, because it's not going to let this sit exactly where it needs to sit. But I mean, for a rough estimate here of how everything's going to sit, like, this actually looks pretty decent. It looks pretty good. So I'm happy I at least got the mount up in there, and it's almost bolted down. So it's getting there, making progress. So I'm going to finish tightening this other bolt down with this wrench, and then this one over here I can get a socket onto, And then that one I'll be able to get a socket onto. So I'm going to finish tightening this other rear one down with the wrench and get this front one in, get all of them tight, and then I'll give you guys another update. Alright, you guys, so she is bolted down. Got all my bolts in there. Nice and tight. This one back over here is tight. That one's in there tight. So now I'm going to go ahead and let the jack all the way down. Let it settle onto the subframe where it needs to go. My brake line is nice and loose fitting in between. So let's lower this jack down and see how she fits. Brake line's still nice and loose in there. Man, it looks like it's sitting pretty good. Alright, well there's my mount. So now I need to mark this hole here for the drill. The one on the inside bracket right here for the drill. And then I want to mark, like scribe into the subframe. Just right here along the edges of this bracket. Just so once I get all this, the engine and everything pulled out, then it'll have the marks, and Garrett will know exactly where the bracket needs to go for him to weld it in. So I'm really happy with how it's turning out so far. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and I don't know, I guess I'll go ahead and start working on other stuff now. I mean, at least now I know it's sitting on a mount, an actual mount made for it. So I'm really happy with that. Oh yeah, it looks good. Lots of clearance over here. You can tell it probably gave me a little bit more clearance. Looks like it's slightly sitting up at an angle a little bit. But I know with more weight it might settle a little bit. We'll see. We'll just have to see how it goes. But man, I'm really happy with that. At least now it's got a mount. That actually looks really good. So we might have to do a little bit of finagling. It looks like there's a notch on the subframe, like a little flange sticking out right here, like right there. There's a little flange, and it looks like this part of the bracket could go underneath the subframe, and it could probably fit a little more snug up against the subframe. So we'll have to see. Maybe I can raise the engine back up a little bit and then knock this down some. And maybe that will help it fit a little bit better in there. This was really a pain in the ass trying to finagle it, the mount in there with the bracket on. I had to lift the engine up, almost maxing out the jack. And see, I barely got that mount with the bracket even in there without having to pull the engine out. So, but that's cool. At least now it's sitting in there on a mount, not just on a hockey puck. And I can go ahead and get all this stuff marked and then move on to the next thing. So I'm going to find my little punch or something I can scribe into this subframe with to let me know this is where we want the mount bracket to sit. And yeah, then I'll move on to getting the cherry picker out and getting the chain hooked up and actually pulling axles and all that. So y'all stay tuned. I'll give you guys another update. Hey bro, I have a question. So on the mount, is this part of the bracket supposed to sit underneath this little lip of the subframe right here? Or is it okay just like that? Because I don't want to drill this hole and this not be sitting in the right spot. So, see, it's kind of gapped it over here. And then whenever I put this piece on, like that, I mean, it kind of fits like that. You see, it's got a gap right there, and it looks like it needs to come forward some more. So if you could let me know if that is okay, or I just don't want to start drilling this hole and then it not line up with the bottom, you know, or like drill this and it not line up over here. You can see how much of a gap there is. I mean, decent little gap right there. So if you could let me know, I'd appreciate it, bro. Alright, you guys, so I got all that old weld cleaned off of the subframe on this side. Bracket sits much nicer now. There is still a little bit of a gap, and you can see right there on the subframe, right here, there's a little bit that sticks over like this, to where it's got a little lip right there. And it looks to me like the bracket needs to sit underneath it so it can come further this way and close this gap. But there is still some old weld on that side on the subframe, and so I need to knock it off with actually how I knocked the other weld off on this side is I just used the pry bar and a hammer, and just like 1 or 2 hits was just knocking the whole chunks off. So yeah, the welds I didn't penetrate at all. Like, it barely held that bracket on there until I put weight on, and once I put weight on it, it broke that bracket off. So yeah, that me welding wasn't good. Maybe I'll get better in the future, I don't know. But I was able to use the flathead screwdriver and got it scribed into the, I guess, powder coat on both sides and underneath. So at least now we know where the bracket needs to go on this side. So now I'm gonna pull this bracket back off, since we know where it's sitting. And you see I got all that old shit off. So I guess next thing I'll probably have to do is pull this brake line over and lift the engine back up and get it up far enough to where I can knock the old welds off the inside of the subframe, and then I can lower it back down, finagle the brake line back through, and then get it set back in place, and hopefully it'll go down a little bit lower and I'll be able to move it in a little bit and really get this thing bolted into place how it's supposed to be. But yeah, so that's the progress that I made on it. At least I got something else done. Man, I really don't want to be pulling all this crap out of the shed right now. So I don't know what I'm going to be doing next. I think I might, instead of getting the cherry picker and pulling axles and all that, I think I want to go ahead and start doing pull out the fuse box and the fuse box tray and unbolt the master and throw it over the engine, because I'm just going to leave it hooked up to the trans and start getting all of this stuff out of here, because it has to come out. And then I'm thinking what I'm going to do is I'm just going to unhook. I need to undo the connections to the starter and the ground. I have to unbolt. The ground pack is on the bell housing bolt right down there. I can't really see it. But yeah, there's a bell housing bolt right down there, and it's holding that ground pack on right here. The bolt's like right underneath this exhaust flange. But yeah, I need to get that ground pack off and remove this ground wire, and yeah, start getting all this stuff out of here and out of the way, because that's going to have to come out for all this to come out anyways. So yeah, I think that's what I'm going to move on to next. So y'all stay tuned. I'll give you guys another update. Alright, y'all. So I was able to get the front mount out, and whenever I was trying to loosen the nut on the stud that holds on this ground pack and the negative ground wire and grounds it to the block, so yeah, I went to remove that nut and the whole stud was loose, like the actual bell housing bolt. And So it just twisted and it ended up pulling this whole piece. Where'd it go? Yeah. Pull this whole piece out of the harness, bent it all up, ripped this out, bent up all the prongs. So I went to this other harness that I had and pulled the good one out. It had a lot of corrosion, so I used the wire wheel right there and got it all nice and cleaned up and clicked it back into place. So now I have a nice one, got all the corrosion off, so that should be good. And that can go right back on like that whenever the engine goes back in. And then I got the fuse box pulled out, got the harnesses disconnected from the fuse box, and then got the fuse box tray out. So all that's over on the shelf now. So next thing I'm going to do is unbolt the master and the reservoir for the clutch. And then I can just take those and kind of toss them on top of the engine. And yeah, that way I don't have to disconnect the bleeder valve or anything. I don't have to disconnect anything from the trans. And yeah, that can just stay bled. So then once it goes back in, I can just bolt that master right back on. And it shouldn't lose anything. Like, it should still be fully bled how it is right now. So right now I know it's bled enough to where it's drivable. So I'm cool with that. But yeah, I mean, other than that, everything's going really well. I just got to finish unplugging stuff. I've got some plugs that run from the harness that plug in on the back side of the trans. I have another ground pack right down here, so I've got to pull that ground pack off. And it really sucks. I have a lot of this harness is all zip tied up in here to keep everything from rubbing. And especially all up in here, it's like all zip tied together. So that's going to be kind of a little bit of a pain in the ass. But I did what I had to do. So I should be able to get all this disconnected, no problem. And go from there. So... but yeah, y'all stay tuned, and I'll give you guys another update as I make some more progress. Alright, y'all, so I got the master with the reservoir unbolted from the firewall down there. And yeah, it was just those two 8mm bolts, and then I had those two Phillips self-tappers holding the reservoir on. So I've got all those right here in this little bag. So, yeah, those need to kind of stay with this. I'll probably just put them like over on the shelf. I should remember what they're for. I did even find my Sharpie so I can actually start labeling everything so I know exactly what everything is for. But yeah, so I guess next I'm gonna start unplugging all these sensors and all the harness plugs from the engine and trans. I've got to unplug or unbolt all the starter connections down there. Get this power wire out that's still bolted to the starter. I need to get all these little clips unclipped that are holding this harness to the fans, and I need to unplug both radiator fans. There's one. But I just need to get all this harness disconnected because all the harness is going to stay in the car, because I have part of the harness is running underneath the rack and pinion all the way across to the passenger side down here. And so I'm not really trying to have to undo all that, and then I have all this stuff zip tied up and zip tied to brake lines. So I'm just going to leave all the harness in the car and just kind of pull everything over here to this side, to the driver's side of the car, and try to keep everything hanging over and up here in this area while I'm pulling the engine and trans out. So, but yeah, I guess I'm going to keep working on, like I said, getting all these sensors and everything unplugged and getting all the harness disconnected from everything, and I'll give you guys another update. Y'all, I got all the starter wires disconnected, got the battery wire out, got the radiator fans all unplugged, got all the harness pulled over here, and then the only thing I didn't really pull out was all this that's zip tied to the brake lines up here. I'm just going to let that fly and kind of leave that in there. I'm gonna leave the ABS hooked up. So everything, pretty much all the wires are disconnected from the engine and the transmission. I got the plugs down here unplugged. I got my ground pack right there undone. So all this is all free and undone. I had all this was zip tied to that little ear on the transmission right there. So I had to cut the zip tie. But everything over here is free. It's just I have it zip tied to brake lines to hold it away from everything. So the only thing that's left is the transmission mounts and pulling the axles. I mean, other than that, it's pretty much ready to come out. So yeah, I mean, everything else is done. So I'm going to try to get the rear mount disconnected from the bracket on the subframe and unbolted from the trans, because I have to completely remove it. And then this one down here, I'm going to have to unbolt this little plastic cover, and you can see there's one bolt right there. There's another one over here that bolts it to the transmission. And I'll just leave the mount bolted to the subframe and just unbolt the mount from the trans. And yeah, so I need to get both of the strut bolts off and rock the knuckle forward so I can pop the axles out, which means I need to go grab my cleaned out drain pan, and I can drain all the transmission fluid out of here. And yeah, we should have this thing out of here in hopefully in a couple hours. And then I actually had a guy message me here about an hour ago on the wheels, and I have them posted for $100. And he said if I would hold them for him, because he's driving like a couple hours from Oklahoma City, but he told me he would give me $125 for all 4 of them if I held them. So I was like, all right, that sounds good to me. And he wants to put them on an Impala. So I was like, well, they'll bolt right on, but you're going to have to buy smaller tires. And he was like, yeah, that's fine. So supposedly, I sent this guy my address, so supposedly he's on his way from Oklahoma City. So I don't know, maybe I'll have some money here in like another hour, and whenever Walmart opens, I can actually go buy the brake clean and all the stuff I'm gonna need to clean up the engine and spray out, like I said, the timing cover. I'm gonna have to pull the oil pump out, spray it out real good, get everything cleaned, and yeah, I'm gonna have to clean everything. So I'm gonna need at least like 4 or 5 cans of brake clean, and I'm gonna need to get some more oil, some more transmission fluid. I'm gonna try to strain out and recycle and reuse the coolant. I have like another half a gallon of coolant in the shed. I do actually have some more transmission fluid in the shed as well, but it's not gonna be enough to fill this all the way back up. But yeah, I mean, overall, I'm really happy with the progress. Everything's coming apart pretty easily. And then over here, as y'all seen, you know, I was able to get the engine mount kind of fitted up. So I'm really happy. This is the first time I've had the engine mount from Gage actually on here, and I've been wanting to get that done for a while now. But overall, I'm making really good progress. Everything's coming apart really well. So next, really, it's just going to be the cherry picker, getting everything suspended, and then pulling the axles and undoing the mounts, and she's pretty much ready to come out. So I might pull this dog bone bracket off, and I might actually pull the radiator fans out just so I don't have any issues. I don't want the engine hitting and breaking the fans. So, and I might pull the fans out, I might not. We'll see how it goes whenever time comes. But yeah, I'm going to keep working on this. I need to, like I said, pull these knuckle to strut bolts out and get the axles out, and I'll give you guys another update. Alright, you guys, well, I was over here working on getting the strut to knuckle bolts out, and the dude showed up to get the wheels. So I just sold the wheels, made $100. So now at here in about 45 minutes, when Walmart opens, I can go get some brake clean and some oil and trans fluid and all that. So at least I got some cash now, and then and go get a couple of NOS, give me some energy drinks, and try to get this thing out of here. So I'm gonna wait until after I go to Walmart to start getting the cherry picker out, and then that way it'll at least be a little bit of daylight, and people are starting to get up. My neighbors are starting to get up and go to work and stuff, so at least people starting to wake up now. So I'll give it about another hour and a half once I get back from Walmart, and then I'll start getting everything out of the shed and get the cherry picker out and get this thing hooked up and try to have this thing pulled out of here today. So I'm going to keep working on it, get both the axles pulled out, and I've still got to get the struts and knuckle bolts out of the passenger side, and then, yeah, then I can pop both the axles out and be one step closer. So y'all stay tuned. I'll give you guys another update. All right, y'all. Got the driver's side axle popped out of place. Got my drain pan catching the fluid. Really sucks I can't reuse this fluid, but the pan's pretty dirty and I don't have a way to clean it out right now. I just want to get this stuff done, so I went ahead and pulled the axle. It's draining. I'll buy more fluid. Not a big deal. So I'm going to finish getting this axle out. I took the axle nut off, so once I get it out, I can actually pull the whole axle. It'll be out of the way and kind of go from there. So yeah, I'm going to finish getting this axle pulled out of here and move on to the other side, and then I'll give you guys another update. Alright, you guys, so I finally got this axle out on this side. I had to pull the whole strut out, and then I ended up having to push the axle all the way back in to be able to get it out of the wheel bearing side over here, and then pop it back out. So now I'm going to move on to this side. I've already pulled the strut out of this side, so now I've just got to move the power steering pump and pull it to where it's sitting up here out of the way. Yeah, like that. Now I have plenty of clearance, so now I need to rock this all the way forward as far as I can. Knock this axle out of the middle of the wheel bearing. I have to grab the hammer. Yeah, I'm going to have to knock that axle out and then pull it to the side, and then I'll be able to pop it out of the transmission over there. So that one I'm going to have to crawl up underneath the car for. It's going to suck, but it's got to be done to get the axle out. So that's what's next, is getting this axle out on this side. So y'all stay tuned. I'll give you guys another update. Alright, you guys, so it's just after 7 o'clock. I got all the tools picked up and put in the Trailblazer. I just kind of got everything stacked over here right now. As you can see, I still have to get this axle out. But, I mean, I'm making really good progress. This side is out, so I mean, pretty much it's the rear mount, this side mount, and the other axle, and this thing's pretty much ready to come out of here. So I'm going to go ahead and run up to Walmart. I'm going to get the trans fluid. I want to get some Mobil 1 oil, because right now I just have some Walmart SuperTech brand oil, and I don't want to run that in this engine. I've already got a Mobil 1 filter, so I'm going to go get some Mobil 1 oil, another jug of trans fluid, like 5 cans of brake clean, and I'm probably going to have to get some more cat food for my cat. But I mean, yeah, I'm just going to go get some stuff real quick, and then probably swing by the smoke shop, get another couple pack of cigarettes, and grab me a couple of NOS. And then I'll be headed back over here, and I'm gonna continue working on it. I'm not going to bed yet or going to take a shower like last night. I want to get this thing out of here today, this morning, so that way I can have Garrett come over and weld on the mount, and should be good. So yeah, y'all stay tuned. I'll give you guys another update here shortly. Alright, you guys, so I just got back over here to the house from Walmart, and I spent $71, but got me some 5W30 Mobil 1 advanced full synthetic, so at least I'll have good oil for the new engine. And then I got some more plastic just in case I need to wrap it up again. And then I got some octane booster because it was only like $4. And then I needed some RTV, so I got the high temp just because it still seals for oil and everything. So, and then I got 4 cans of brake clean, and then little thing of WD-40 just in case I need some WD-40. And but yeah, so that was $71. And but yeah, I need to get the power plugged back in so I can get my light back on. And yeah, like I said, this thing's almost ready to come out of here. I just got the rear mount, the passenger mount, and I still got to get the passenger side axle out of the transmission. And yeah, after that, she's pretty much ready to come out. So got to get the cherry picker out, get the chain, get this last few little bits done, and I'm going to try to have this engine out of here by noon. It's like 8:30, 9, somewhere right in there. So I got like 3 hours. So yeah, I'm gonna get to work and I'll give you guys another update. Alright, you guys, so I got the passenger side axle out, sitting over here, and went ahead and got the chain hooked up, got a bolt through it, got the cherry picker out, had to pull a bunch of shit out and then put a bunch of shit back in after I got it out. But I got it all set up, went to hook it up, and I'm hitting the bumper on this right here. So I'm gonna have to pull the front bumper off before I can even hook the cherry picker up. So I'm about to get the tin with the impact and zip these 3 bolts on each side out, and then get these self-tappers out up here, and bumper should just come off. So y'all stay tuned, I'll give you guys another update. Alright, you guys, so I've got the front bumper off. So now I should have plenty of clearance to get the cherry picker up in here and start hoisting this thing up. And then once I get it, you know, just under tension and just barely lifting up the mount, then I'll go ahead and I already took out the 2 10 mils that held this on. So now I can get to the 15 there and the 15 there. And that will undo this mount from the transmission. And then I just got to get the rear mount. And yeah, she's ready to come out. So y'all stay tuned. I'm going to get this hooked up and I'll give you guys another update. Alright, you guys, so I lifted the engine up a little bit, and you can see where I marked on the subframe where the mount's going to sit. So that's cool. I'm happy with that. At least I know where it's going to sit. I used a Sharpie to try to fill in the hole where the hole is going to be. That's the best it got. I did the inside one too, but I haven't got to look at it yet. Yeah, so I'm just going to untuck this line. And then I'm going to have to lower the engine down just a little bit so I can undo the rear transmission mount and the side mount, transmission mount on the driver's side. And then we should be hanging loose and be able to start pulling the engine and trans out. So y'all give me a few and I'll give you guys another update. Alright, y'all, so I've got the radiator fans out. They're sitting over here. What else did I just do? Oh, I got the lower radiator hose disconnected from the radiator. I was trying to get it disconnected from here, but I just cannot get it to come off. Even with spraying WD-40 in there, I can't get it to twist or move or anything. So I just pulled it off the radiator. So the hose is going to come out with the engine. So over here on this side, I got both of the bolts out of the transmission mount. And so now I just have the rear transmission mount. So I have to pull out the bolt that goes through. And then there's 3 18s that bolt the bracket to the transmission. I've got to take those out. And then she should be free. And then I'm also going to have to unbolt the master cylinder, the brake master cylinder, and kind of move it over out of the way. So I have a little bit more room for this coming up, so I'm not hitting. And but yeah, other than that, everything is looking really good. So looking like we should have this engine and trans pulled out right on schedule, right by noon. So I'm going to keep working on this, get this rear engine or rear transmission mount unbolted, and I'll give you guys another update. Alright, y'all, so I just got the rear mount out. It's sitting over here. So pretty much the engine and trans is floating on the cherry picker right now. Everything is disconnected. So I'm going to start. Well, I guess I can. Actually, I'm going to let it down to where it's sitting on the subframe. And I'm going to bolt the struts back in. And once I get the struts bolted back in, I'm going to bolt the wheels back on. And then I'm going to jack it up, take it off the jack stands, and set it back on the ground. So it's much lower to the ground. And then that way, my cherry picker doesn't have to go so high because the car will be lower. Because the last couple times I've used it, even after I've refilled it with the hydraulic oil, it wanted to go so high and then it would like stop, and it didn't want to go super high. So if I lower the car down onto the ground, it doesn't have to go as high, and I should be able to get the engine and trans out no problem. So yeah, I'm gonna let it down off the cherry picker, just let it sit in there. Actually, I'll probably have to put one of these bolts back in over here so it will hold it over here and hold the engine over there on that engine mount. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing back on the ground, get it one bolt back in the mount over here just to hold it up so it doesn't just fall through the subframe. And yeah, get the wheels on, get it on the ground, and then I'll give you guys another update. Alright, you guys, so I've got both of the struts on, both the front wheels are on. So I'm about to lift the car up, take it off jack stands, set it down on the ground, and then I can hook the cherry picker up to the chain, start lifting the engine and trans out. There we go. Tuck that back up here. There we go. So I'm gonna get this thing set on the ground and I'll give you guys another update. Alright, you guys, so I got the car set down on the ground, got the cherry picker hooked up, and just gave it a little bit of, pressure, and it was kind of seizing up, so I started, pushing the cherry picker that way, and that would kind of loosen it up. And then once I got the engine mount to come up off of the subframe, now it's free. So now I just gotta slowly go up and finagle this harness around the transmission, and probably have to push her over a little bit, but yeah, she's in there hanging free. So I'm gonna try to get this thing pulled out of here in one piece and give you guys another update. Alright, you guys, she's pretty much out of here. She's hanging nice and free. I've just gotta get around the master cylinder, but I mean, other than that, yeah, came right out. So I'm gonna finish getting this engine out of here and set it on the ground and give you guys another update. Alright, you guys, it's 12:36 p.m. and she's out. So I missed my target by 30 minutes, but it's just afternoon. I'm happy with that. She's out. So I'm gonna get this set on the ground over here, and I'll give you guys another update. Alright, you guys, the engine and trans is sitting on the ground off the cherry picker, sitting on the mount nicely like it should. So I'm happy with that. I can start tearing it apart. I can get this bracket off, get the heads off, gotta pull the exhaust manifolds off, and then I pull the crank pulley and the timing cover and try to see what the deal is with this oil volume kit. I gotta see if I can even get it out of the timing cover, because it's just like it's stuck in there. It's not springing at all. So it's gotta be gummed up. Something's gotta be going on. And I hope I can maybe use like my air compressor and blow in something to pop it out. I'm not for sure. Looks like there's a couple of galleys right there. That one's blocked by the valve. maybe blowing it in that upper one right there. I'm not for sure. But that bottom one right there, it's blocked by the cap. So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But, yeah, I'm going to start getting this thing torn down, and I'll give you guys another update. Alright, you guys. So, I got the alternate, or the coil pack bracket off. It's over there, and the little sub harness that goes to the crank sensor and the cam sensor. So next thing I'm going to move on to is the crossover pipe and the front and rear power logs, and get those removed. And then I'll get the valve covers off and pull the heads off, and then work on the crank pulley, get that pulled off, get the timing cover pulled off, and try to see what's going on in that oil pump area. Because if it's seized in there, I'm going to have to get another timing cover and just use another timing cover. So, we'll see how it goes, but I'm going to go ahead and get this exhaust off and get the valve covers and the heads off, and I'll give you guys another update. Look, you guys, so I just got the rear manifold off, and you can see where my exhaust leak was. It's all over the head, right on the cylinder 2 spark plug. Even on the gasket, you can see where it was blown out, leaking. So I'm guessing I just didn't get this bolt tight enough. It's the only thing I could think of. Or maybe I didn't get it clean enough before I put it back together. But either way, look, there's plenty of oil up in the head. Everything looks like it was working properly. So I don't know, I have high hopes for the push rods and for the cam and everything. I think it was still pumping oil. I don't know what the deal is with the cap though. Like, I tried to get it out and it's stuck in there. So
no, it'll stay right there.
But I'm gonna go ahead and get this crossover pipe off and the front manifold off, and then I'll give you guys another update. Alright, you guys, so I've got the head stripped down, I got the rockers and the push rods and everything. Over here, I set them in the valve covers. And then this is how this is the front head, that's the rear head. So as I pull them out, that's how I put them back in here. So they're also organized. There's all the head studs, nuts, and washers for the rear. That one's for the front, or this one's for the front, that one's for the rear. And the same with the exhaust, front and rear, crossover. So it's coming apart. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull these lifter guides and get the lifters out. Those don't really matter which way they go back in. So I'm just going to get something I can put them in, put some oil in it, so that way they're still soaking with good fresh oil. And yeah, then I can pull the crank pulley or the crank bolt, then get the pulley off, get the timing cover off, and then we can pull the cam out, cam retainer plate, timing set, all that good stuff. And then get the transmission unmarried, get the flywheel and the clutch and everything off. And then the starter, I'm keeping the knock sensors on this because they're both brand new. And then I can unwrap this and start getting everything cleaned up and start getting this thing put back together with everything coming out. So I'm going to keep working on this, and I'll give you guys another update. Alright, you guys, so I got all the lifters pulled out. Every single one of them looked amazing. So I'm not seeing any major damage on the cam lobes. So it's looking really good. So I'm pretty happy with that. Now I'm more excited to get this thing pulled apart. Get this timing cover off of here. So I guess that's what I'm going to do next, is get this crank bolt off. I've got to go inside and grab my pulley puller so I can get the pulley pulled off. And then I can pull this timing cover off and get that timing double roller and that NIC cam out of there. And I guess go ahead and get this one unwrapped and get the cam all cleaned up and then lubed up. And we'll just go ahead and throw it right on in, get it installed, lock tight the retainer bolts, and just kind of start putting it back together. Once I get the cam in, I can get the gear off the crank for the double roller, get it onto this one. It lines up on that keyway, and then you just put it in top dead center and line up the dots, and boom, it's good to go. Really easy. And then I have a factory tensioner. Someone told me that you can actually run the factory chain tensioner. So I have a new factory style chain tensioner. And so I'm going to try to throw that on with the double roller just to give it extra, extra no slack. Like, I don't want any issues with the new engine. So, yeah, I got to throw the tensioner on there. But, yeah, it's coming together really, really good. So, now I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to get this pulley off, get this timing cover off, and I'll give you guys another update before I pull the cam out. Alright, you guys, so I just got the engine and the transmission unmarried. And I don't know, it looks kind of like it's slinging oil. So maybe it had a bad rear main. I'm not for sure. Definitely looks like it's slinging something though, so good thing I already put a new rear main seal in this one. Don't have to worry about it. I'm pretty sure I'd put one in this, plus a rear cover, but I don't know what the deal is. Yeah, now I need to pick up this transmission. I'm going to take it over there, set it to the side. And I'll be able to unbolt this pressure plate and get the clutch off. And get the flywheel removed, unbolt the starter. Then I can pull the timing cover and the timing chain and get the cam out. And then that's the knock sensors. And then the mount. And that's pretty much it. That's all I'm really taking off this thing. So y'all stay tuned. I'll give you guys another update. Alright, y'all. So I got the the pressure plate kind of wiped down and tried to clean up some of the gunk that was on it. Went ahead and pulled the flywheel off. And look at there. Bad rear main. It's leaking. So the rear main seal was leaking some oil. And it was slinging around and got all over the clutch. So, but pressure plate and the clutch looks pretty good still, so not that worried about it. Heck yeah, I'm making really good progress. So I've got to run inside, grab my pulley puller, come pull this crank pulley off, and I can get this timing cover off. And we're almost done with this engine. It's almost ready to just go to the scrap yard. So y'all stay tuned. I'll give you guys another update. Alright, you guys, so I damn near got everything off of the old engine. I still got to do the crank pulley, the timing cover, and the cam and all that. I went ahead and pushed the new engine up here. I'm going to get the ratchet straps off, get the tarp off. I'm going to leave it in the plastic until I have everything off of the old engine. I just wanted to start getting everything ready. So as soon as I pull the cam out, I can put the lube on it, put it into this engine, get the retainer plate on, get the Loctite on there, and start getting this thing put back together today. So y'all stay tuned, and I will give you guys another update. Alright, so guys, timing cover is off. There's that nice JP Performance double roller. So I'm going to be very careful and get that taken off. And you see the timing cover still looks pretty clean inside. I mean, I'll definitely have to take these out and take this oil pump back apart and just make sure that everything's good. And all of that commotion, look, it popped out. So I don't know what happened, but I'm going to take some air and spray in there. That's the hole that pushes it out. And I'll just have to clean this out really, really fucking good. But it looks like I'm going to be able to reuse this timing cover. I just got to clean it out really, really good. So, but I'm going to go ahead and get this timing chain off of here and get the cam pulled out. And I'll give you guys another update. Alright, you guys, got the timing chain off. I had to use the 3-jaw puller to get the crank gear off. But got it off. It's sitting over here. I went ahead and zip tied everything. Got my cam key right there. And my cam bolt. So now I've just got to get the cam retainer plate bolts undone. Get this cam retainer plate off. I can pull the cam out. And yeah, we should pretty much be done with this engine. I don't think I need anything. Oh, and the starter and the knock sensors. Other than that, I don't think I need anything else off of this engine. So I'm happy with that. So I'm going to go ahead and get this cam retainer plate and get the cam out. And I'll give you guys another update. Alright, you guys, so I got the cam retainer plate off, so now I can get the cam out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unwrap the new engine and get all the plastic off, and I'm going to get out the motor assembly grease lube, and I'm going to pull the cam out of here, grease it and lube it all up, and then put it straight into the new engine. And then I have the cam retainer plate sitting over there. I'm going to spray it down with some brake clean. And then I've got to get the Loctite, the red Loctite. And then I can swap it out, or get the bolts Loctited, get them torqued down. And I've got the whole torque spec sheet on my phone from Google. So I'm going to go through and completely torque everything down and start getting the engine put back together. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this cam, get that unwrapped, and then get the cam out, and I'll give you guys another update. Alright, you guys, so this engine is torn down. Only thing I have left to grab is the starter and the knock sensors. I'm not reusing anything else. I do still want to pull the oil pan just to look at everything. Oh, and I need to get my heat shield because I am going to reuse those. But yeah, that engine is pretty much torn down as far as I'm going to take it. So now I've got the cam pulled out over here. I got the motor assembly grease. And so I'm about to install it, but I'm going to end it here. So if you liked the video, leave me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos. And please share the videos with your friends and family, because I think this is going to be a pretty good, reliable engine. And so yeah, thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one.